a US appeals court has reinstated many of President Donald Trump's tariffs the day after another court blocked them. The move now puts a pause on a trade court's ruling that Trump exceeded his authority in imposing his Liberation Day tariff regime, adding a jolt of legal chaos to the uncertainty surrounding Trump's global trade war. Trump's advisors, who had condemned the tariff bloc as a judicial coup, celebrated the reprieve, as you can imagine. But the possibility of the initial ruling being reinstated weighs heavily on the White House. But despite the setback, Trump will likely be undeterred in his aim to rewrite the rules of global commerce in America's favor, as many political experts have highlighted. But for further clarity, let's just go across to David K. Johnston, who joins us. But before that, let's just take a look at what the White House had to say.
The president's rationale for imposing these powerful tariffs was legally sound and grounded in common sense. President Trump correctly believes that America cannot function safely long-term if we are unable to scale advanced domestic manufacturing capacity, have our own secure critical supply chains, and our defense industrial base is dependent on foreign adversaries. Three judges of the U.S. Court of International Trade disagreed and brazenly abused their judicial power to usurp the authority of President Trump to stop him from carrying out the mandate that the American people gave him.
To better understand what's going on and to understand the wider ramifications, let's go across to David Johnston, who's with us, sir, as always. Thank you so much for making time for us. The trade court says that Congress and not the president holds tariff power. So how significant is this ruling in reaffirming constitutional checks and balances? And sir, could this actually reshape how executive authority is interpreted in economic policy?
This is a very important decision by this specialized court with three judges, one of whom Donald Trump appointed. And they basically wrote in their 49-page opinion a primer for the Supreme Court, which is not a specialized but a generalist court. Here's how trade law works, and here's what the Constitution says. That document will be very important when this case gets to the Supreme Court. Donald Trump does not have the authority to impose these tariffs. That is authority held by Congress, except for special, narrow, emergency situations. Right. And the court made it clear there's no such emergency.
And given the abrupt legal reversal, the temporary reinstatement, how does this back and forth actually affect U.S. credibility as a trade partner, sir? You think global trading allies view this more as legal turbulence or strategic instability?
Oh, I think this is very much seen as instability. It is humiliating for Donald Trump. At the end of the day, even with the very conservative Supreme Court in the United States, he will lose on this because this is very clear law. So this is very bad for Donald Trump, and it's part of all the stumbling and losing that's going on because Donald simply asserts that he has dictatorial powers. Frankly, watching Press Secretary Leavitt in the clip you ran, it's very hard not to laugh at her comments because they have nothing to do with the law, something, of course, I've taught for many years.
Yes, indeed. And in terms of whether this is strategic tradecraft or systemic gamble, well, Trump has long used tariffs as leverage in diplomacy, as we've learned. From a policy design angle, sir, is this tactic sustainable, or does it actually risk making U.S. trade policy too reactive and too volatile?
Oh, I think the second part of your observation, Trump's flip-flopping on this, which used to be a death knell for a politician to be accused of flip-flopping, is not helping at all. And Trump is in many ways destroying imported money to the United States. For example, professors like me are responsible for lots of foreign students coming to America where they pay 100% tuition, which subsidizes universities. His actions here are very contrary to the economic interests of the U.S., but that's because Trump, even though he has a degree in economics, Donald literally doesn't know anything about economics.
Well, in fact, many experts are actually driving that point home. But as we wrap, sir, do you see this as a precedent-setting moment that could curb future administrations' use of trade as a unilateral tool?
Yes, I expect at the end of the day, the Supreme Court will issue a ruling making it clear that Congress sets trade policy. The role of the president is simply to do what Congress says.
Right.
Now, Congress may well pass his tariffs because his party is in control. But until they do that, he does not have the authority to do these things. Congress must do them.
Professor, always a pleasure to hear your views. Thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on NDTV.